Hello and happy day 14 of our Thankful for 30 challenge. Today, we're going to talk about something that I have realized in my adult life doesn't necessarily come as easy for me or for a lot of people that I encounter, family members, friends, that sort of thing. And that is forgiveness in general, and letting things go.
I know it's nothing new, but it's so good to see you.
So, yeah, this is kind of an awkward thing to talk about because a lot of times, if we really were to sit down, say out loud the things that we are frustrated about, the grudges that we're holding, the reasons that we continue to not get along with this person or this family member or that family member, if we really were to sit down, say it out loud, I think a lot of times we might realize just how silly, just how petty we're letting some of these things be. And so I think that because we don't often say it out loud, other than just to complain, or we find the people that are going to be on our side or whatever that might be, we let it fester and we let it build. And then before you know it, years have passed. And in my opinion, that holding those grudges and not forgiving and not allowing that forgiveness can eat away at us inside. It eats away. It allows so much energy and time to be spent on being angry, on being mad, on being frustrated, on feeling like you're the victim, feeling hurt. When if we could just face it, name it, approach that person, discuss it, even if we continue to agree to disagree, even if we continue to go our separate ways, so often if we could just address some of those situations, we could be so much better off and therefore more thankful for the life that we have. So obviously, if you can't tell, I'm speaking from a little bit of personal experience within my life, maybe not me personally, but close family members, close friends that I have that continue to hold things that ultimately are not allowing for us to appreciate the life that we live, that aren't allowing for us to move forward, aren't allowing us for us to remember like what actually matters in life and what actually is important. And most of the time, it's not these petty fights or disagreements that we have. And quite frankly, if you are someone who is anywhere in your faith, forgiveness is a huge part of the spiritual journey that I'm on and that the life that I want to live. Sure, I'm going to disagree with people from time to time. Sure, I'm going to have different opinions and I'm going to want different things and things are going to hurt my feelings. But at the end of the day, I want to be someone who forgives. I want to be someone who allows that grace because none of us are perfect. And when we are on this pedestal saying, hey, you did wrong, or you did me wrong, or I didn't like this, or blah, 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 we're essentially saying, I'm perfect, you're not, you need to work on it, when none of us are perfect. We are all, people that make mistakes over and over again in life. And really all we can ask of ourselves is to do the best that we can. And this kind of goes back to earlier in this series that we talked about of, I just want to be my favorite self. And my favorite self is somebody who's going to be understanding, who's going to try to look at situations from all angles and not just the angle where I'm the victim and they're clearly the bad person that wanted to hurt me. Because the majority of the time, people that do hurt us aren't ultimately trying to hurt us. Now, there are certain occasions, and if you've ever heard the phrase hurt people, yeah, right? I mean, I get it. And there are definitely those scenarios and those situations, been there, but a lot of times it's truly just a misunderstanding. It could be as simple as just having a conversation instead of assuming that this person meant this and assuming that this person meant this, because I have been the person that's been in the middle and I've talked with both parties back and forth. And really what I hear back and forth is like, well, I think that they did it because of this, or I think that they did it because of this. And I don't want to be a part of that. So I am someone I'm very reflective. I'm constantly thinking like, well, maybe they meant it this way, or maybe they didn't mean it this way. Another big way that I feel like this happens a lot is through like text message or messaging in general. Some people use emojis, some people don't. And so because of the people who more likely to use an emoji, when they get a message from somebody who doesn't use an emoji, they're like, oh my gosh, are they mad at me? And it's like, no, they just don't use emojis, it's silly stuff like that. But because we have gotten into such a techie world where we're constantly emailing or texting or sending a DM on social media, we've gotten away from actually talking to somebody and actually being able to like read their facial expression, hear maybe the sarcasm in their voice, hear that they're being very sincere, and maybe they are a more blunt person or whatever that looks like. So all of this to say, I want you to think through, and this is something that I have done a lot this month, and I feel like I'm making strides. Always making strides is the goal, but I've made a lot of thoughts and just done a lot of reflection this month of who am I still maybe frustrated with, or who am I still holding a grudge against, or who am I doing those sorts of things against, essentially. And is that taking away from the life that I'm living right now? And a lot of times where I can really, really sense this is if I'm holding resentment towards somebody. If I see something and I feel like jealousy or resentment or frustration, and I'm like, hold on, where is this coming from? And so I try to get to the bottom of it. And a lot of times it comes down to something that I simply haven't addressed. Because the majority of the time when I face whatever it was that hurt my feelings, whatever it was that maybe was a misunderstanding or a disagreement or whatever that might be, when I actually face it and I think about it, and especially if I have an opportunity to have a conversation with that person, usually it like disappears as far as something that's like bothering me anymore or causing any sort of, uncomfortable feelings. And all it takes is me actually addressing it, actually thinking about it, actually talking to the person instead of continuing to assume or just think that that's what that person meant or whatever. And, that has helped so much. And it's amazing how each time I do that, it feels like this weight that's been lifted off of my shoulders. Life feels better. I feel happier. And overall, I feel more thankful because I took the time to really, really get to the bottom of whatever that might be. Sometimes it's really, really petty and simple. Sometimes it's a lot deeper and there is a lot of hurt there, and that might take a lot more. That might take therapy. That might take years of just working through things. That might take complete cutting people out of your life. I'm not saying every situation is going to be the same, because it's not, but I do think taking the time to really think through, address those things, reflect, figure out what actually bothers you, get to the bottom of it, can relieve so much stress and pressure internally that outwardly and externally, you are going to feel so much better about your overall life. And ultimately, you're going to feel so much more thankful and appreciative for all that you have. It just makes sense. If you are feeling hurt and feeling like the victim in a situation, you're not going to be feeling very thankful. You're going to be like, yeah, life sucks. Like life is coming at me and I can't handle it and all those sorts of things. Or if you start to become aware and address those situations and you're like, you know what, that was a really hard situation. And turns out that person didn't mean for it to come across the way that it came across or whatever. And so I can forgive them. Now I can move on. And now I no longer feel like the victim. And therefore, now I can enjoy, appreciate, be thankful for this life that I have. Does that make sense? So that's the whole focus of today, is really focusing on forgiveness. If that's something that you're ready to do, if once you've done that reflection, you realize that is the right step to take, and then ultimately just letting some things go. There are sometimes people are going to disagree with you till the day ends, because that is how they feel so strongly and this is how you feel. And that's just going to be something I've literally made the decision in my life that some people just aren't meant to be in my life because we just don't see eye to eye. And anytime I'm around or in the vicinity of that person, I feel negative, like those sorts of things. And ultimately, it's probably better for both of us to just go separate ways. So that's the plan for today. And I know that this is a tough one. I really, really do. But if we can grow in this way, this is a mature thing too. Like it takes a lot of strength within, a lot of maturity to work through some of these things. And like I said, when I started this video, like as an adult, I've really learned a lot about just because someone may be older in years does not mean that their maturity level is equal with the age that they are. I've met a lot of older people that are really petty. I've met a lot of young people that are super mature, and I've met people in between, right? So I think that that's something too. Being someone who is a listener and who is more reflective and who is more forgiving and who is more gracious, that's the kind of person that I want to be. But it takes work. It takes being really intentional with that. And I'd rather be the person that forgives and lets go of things and moves forward, if nothing else, because it makes my life happier and better, than the person who is continuing to hold grudges and is so negative and is letting that anger eat away at me inside. So obviously it's up to each of us to decide that and to do the work that it's going to take to make those strides and to get there. It is always going to be a work in progress, but I don't know, if you're anything like me, I think it's worth it. And that's why I felt this was such an important part and piece to bring into this Thankful for 30 challenge. So I hope that you are maybe feeling like, you know what, she's right. She's right. I need to let some things go. The holiday season is here. I mean, it's weeks away at this point. What a better time to forgive and to move forward and to enjoy the holidays and be, just mindful of the fact that spending time with family, appreciating all that we have, that's what the holidays are more so about, rather than the presents and the food and all of that. So anyways, that's what I've got, and I will see you tomorrow, which will be our mid-month check-in coffee chat that we're going to kind of put together, in order to be a part of this Thankful for 30 challenge. So I will see you for that. Bring a cup of coffee and we will be chatting with you then. See ya.